All right, here we go. We're live. Welcome to Win the Day podcast. Mark Violet, attorneys here. We got the rest of our crew, Mark, Destiny, and Julie. So we're going to get right into it today. We're going to talk about how to increase your transactions. I think a lot of folks are struggling right now. I know one big ugly one is. So I want to talk about how to get more transactions. And it's easy to fall back and, well, good, just lead generate more. All right. Talk to more people, ask more deeper questions, all that. And all that is true. But there's got to be something more to it than that. So Mark Violet, from a legal standpoint, Mark owns a title company. Primarily earn your living off of closings?
Real estate closings, correct.
Okay. So you like it when realtors are doing transactions?
Absolutely.
So as an outsider, semi-outsider looking in, what advice do you have for us poor folks that are trying to do this?
Well, see, when you reflect, when you've been doing it long enough, I've been doing closings since 1999. And if you're in the real estate market, it's going to be cyclical. So if you've been doing this long enough, you can always go back to a period of time where this has somewhat occurred in the past. So that time for us was 2007, 2008, 2009. I remember in January of 2009, I was the office in Okaloosa County that did the most closings out of any closing company, because we had data back then that would tell you, how many closings each company did. And
okay, so what were you doing?
And we did a total of 20 closings.
20 closings
that month.
In a month? Okay.
That month. So out of all the closing companies,
what is a normal month of closings?
Around 50 for us.
So
and usually we're not even ranked in the top, say, 7 or 8.
Okay.
So the top 1 or 2 is going to be doing north of 100 to 150 per month. And we were number 1 at 20. So what I did was I tried to identify, okay, if everyone's struggling, but somebody's out there doing closings, I went into our MLS and I looked at every single closing that occurred and who the agent was on the closing. And what you'll see is the standard, whether you call it the 5% rule or the 10% rule, which is 5% is doing 90% of the business. And I said, I could spend my time sponsoring $500 lunches for every organization out there who's not going to send me business because there is none. Or I can redirect my focus on those that are doing.
Because somebody's always doing something.
That's generally true. And even at that time, I knew I may not immediately, it may not be I go meet them the first time and I automatically start getting closings from them. No. There's going to be a time delay, but I'm going to drip and I'm going to drip and I'm going to send them information and I'm going to show up and I'm just going to drip and drip and drip. And what I found was over the course of time, generally something will go wrong in a closing process and that person will get frustrated with their existing whoever they use and say, you know what?
So you got number 2. You're number 2 in a lot of lines.
That is correct. Maybe it's time for a change. And you don't know when that magical moment's going to happen. But for me, when things got slow, that's what I did. And it seemed to work out long term.
Rather than taking a shotgun wide approach, you took a rifle shot. Who's doing the business? Go suck up on them.
Correct.
Love it.
Yep.
So you can do that here in our world too, right? If I would go and you said you did in the MLS, you just went in the MLS, see who's closing deals.
Correct. So our thought process was in Florida. I don't know about the rest of the states, but in Florida, when somebody records a deed, I get to see who the closing company was. Then I can go in the MLS, and back then it would say, this was listing agent, this was the selling agent, here's who paid title insurance, and traditionally that's who's controlling the flow of where it goes.
Okay. So you can do that too. Go into your MLS, take a look and see, is there a realtor, team of realtors, some group of realtors that seem to be getting more business than anybody else or others? And if there is, take a look at them. Do a deep dive. What are they doing? What are they doing that you're not doing? And then do that.
And it could be right now that the ones doing the transactions are the ones that are working with builders.
Could be.
Because the builders can offer their own financing. They can offer lower sales prices because they're in complete control. And somebody watching may go, oh, I've never dealt with, I don't feel like I'm good enough to approach a builder. But don't forget, just like you're new, there's going to be a builder out there who's also new at it. So your angle may be maybe we go to what's called the Building Industry Association. That's where new builders go for the club, kind of like you guys are ECAR, they're the BIA. Maybe you say, I'm going to start going to our BIA meetings and I'm going to meet these new builders and I can get into the ground level. It may not produce your fruits immediately, but it'll give you hope or optimism or more knowledge. And then maybe you become an expert. And lo and behold, a year from now, people are calling you going, how do you have so much business? I don't understand what you're doing. And it's not so much what they did that moment, it's they planted the seed to get to that moment.
Love it. Okay, so Bianca's got a question here. I want to position myself better as a listing agent. I won't reject a buyer, but I want to be a listing. What tactics, promo items, events has Mark seen before at the closing table? Do you get mostly listing agents or buyer? Does anybody? I mean, we're heavy on the listing.
Yes.
Sure,
so here's what I see. It's really geographically determined. So for instance, in our area, most of the time, the buyer who's submitting the offer is the one who's paying title because their agent has talked to them and said, we want to control where this goes. But you go 45 minutes to the east in Panama City, and every listing agent puts in the MLS, when you submit an offer, put this company, have the seller paying title and we're selecting. So a lot of that is geographical in nature. So I don't know where Bianca's actually located.
She's in Oklahoma, if I'm to guess.
You know what? Can I comment on that?
No. Let's move on. What do you got?
So the one thing I would say about that is it matters what the speed of the market is, because
Say that again. What?
Who determines the title company is dependent on the speed of the market.
Buyer's market or seller's market.
Yeah, and the reason why I say that is in our market, our contract specifically says, and it should be, that the buyer chooses the title company because they're the ones buying title insurance,
ensuring
their purchase, right? But the way it works is the most active agents generally are the ones that have the most listings, and we will always put an MLS preference will be given to offers submitted with this title company. And if the buyer's agent doesn't have someone that they're loyal to, or if it's a competitive situation, they will agree to your title company. If it's somebody who does a lot of volume, I'm always going to pick my title company. But we're not seeing a lot of offers that are getting accepted on the first swipe. So when there's a counter offer, the first thing a listing agent is going to do is counter the title company. So unless you have multiple offers and the listing agent is in control, which we're not typically, kind of, maybe, you're going to end up with the listing agent choosing the title company when they counter.
In your world.
Yeah, and to answer Bianca's question, in Florida, generally, we don't have the buyers and the sellers at the table at the same time. So as a listing agent, you never really see the buyers at closing. And as a buyer's agent, you never see the sellers at closing. And even those numbers are going down because with e-signing and electronics, I don't know what our numbers are, but I think there's more non-present people at closing now than there are present at closing. So I don't have an answer for what tactics we've seen at the closing table to help a listing agent, because usually the listing agents, your seed is done long before there's even a transaction, because you're trying to get a property that's not for sale put on the MLS as the listing agent.
Is that what she's asking, is what is the method to become marketed as a listing agent instead of, I think we're missing the question.
What are the tactics to become a listing agent?
I would chime in and say open houses are huge. Marketing with your signs. Julie always talks about that. Get your own custom signs with your picture and phone number on them. Cold calling has stood the test of time. It's not fun. Nobody loves it, but it works. That's where I've gotten the majority of my business. And then your sphere of influence, you've got to start telling people that you're a listing agent and you want to sell their home, that you're capable of selling your home.
The easiest, least expensive way to get listings is to be able to target a small area, a specific community, because if you're doing open houses multiple times a week, and you have 10 or 15 signs with your logo, your picture, make sure you have your picture on it and your phone number, because your picture is your brand. And when they see you and meet you, they have a level of comfort subconsciously and feel like they know you. And they've seen your sign with your picture on it multiple times. You're in this small area where people are seeing it over and over and over. And the cost to do that is buying a bunch of signs and doing a bunch of open houses. It's a lot less expensive than a lot of other advertising avenues.
You know, that there's a reason why when you go into Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, what have you, they have the little as seen on TV sticker on those boxes. And we live in a day where we don't have to go to the radio station and get a radio show. We don't have to do a TV commercial. What we talk about is going to attract an audience. So start shooting videos. Well done, but shoot videos and put those out there where you're talking about things that matter to homeowners and to sellers. And as they see you, it's crazy how it works. But when people see you on a box, when they see us on a box, when they see John on a box, you know, in these old boxes, there's this attributable, oh my gosh, I see you all the time. Those have a power. And so it's an embarrassment of riches of what we can do with video and its impact for the eye within social media influencing just with video talking to sellers.
And like in a parallel is, I don't do wills, trusts, and estates, but there's a local attorney here who I constantly see. He'll do mail outs, and what he'll do is he'll conduct a seminar. Yep, that's it. So he'll conduct a seminar that's free for you to attend and of course the flyer will have, you know, do you have wealth, or do you pay taxes? Do you want to leave more to your kids? The catch thing. So Bianca, if you did advertisements and you wanted to have maybe at your local chamber of commerce or at a conference room, something like that on a Saturday, where you have dripped out flyers to prospective people who are on the fence about listing their property, and it's a non-threatening, are you considering listing your property? Maybe you should come out and listen to what I have to say. 1 hour, snacks will be provided, and you'll get somewhat of a flavor of, and usually those people that show up are probably serious about at some point in the next 12 months listing their property, and you could be the only one offering these kind of services in that area.
So here, let me chime in here. I've got a little over 1,500 closed transactions, probably 80%. I have to go look, probably higher than 80% on the listing side, which means we're taking over 20 years, maybe almost 10,000 listings. It's what I built my career on. Okay. And here's what I would tell you, Bianca. You want to become a listing agent, it's in your messaging. Everything you do is in your messaging. We sell faster. We sell for more. We provide tips, stuff like Mark's talking about. Give insight to how to list and sell your property. Tell success stories about listing and selling property. All right. 90% of the real estate world is focused on buyers. Okay. Focus and put your story out into the world that you're a listing specialist, and you will get listings.
Target for sale by owners.
I promise. Just the way it works. You'll become a listing agent in your mind. Start thinking like a listing agent. You'll start looking for listings as opposed to buyers. Now you'll get buyers because you have signs and all that stuff out there, but you will be a listing agent.
And the other thing is create a talk of the top 5 mistakes that sellers make. And then go offer yourself to the Kiwanis, to the Civitan, to the clubs, and saying, I've got
everything about sellers. Yeah. Buyers are an afterthought. Okay. All right. So Jesse's asking how small of an area. This goes back to you, Julie. How small of an area were you talking about?
So that depends on you. And one of the things I would say is start where you are. So if you're in a condo building, if you're in a high rise, if you're in a neighborhood, I live in an area in Scottsdale called Old Town, and I used to, for many years, live in a neighborhood called McCormick Ranch, and start in right where you are. Or if you're renting, start within 3 to 5 miles. I'm making up a number, but very close to where you are. Target where you want to be, because if you become a dominating listing agent, you're going to need to be in that area all the time, because that's where you're going to be doing your open houses multiple times a week. And that's where you're going to be meeting buyers and sellers multiple times a week. And the further you are away from that, you're going to complain and be unhappy when you're commuting and when you have to go show one property. So wherever you are, very tight. If it's a high rise and you're selling condos, that building, be the expert, the specialist, know everything about that building and everything that's active, under contract, temporarily off the market, canceled, expired, sold for the last 6 months to a year, and then expand out from there.
Makes sense. Makes sense. 'Cause that's what you did too. You didn't go looking for closings in 50 miles away. You went,
I went to the realtors who brought me the closings from 50 miles away.
even if they were that far, you didn't care? Or did you go closer?
No, we didn't care.
You didn't have to go to them.
Right. So, and the one thing, so when I was in law school, I would talk to, when I was the first year, we call them 1Ls, 2Ls, 3Ls. So when I was in the first year, I would go to the 2Ls and just pick their brain. What do I need to focus on? How does this work? Because you don't know anything that's going on. So the best thing I ever did was I found people that did well their first year and found out, what did they concentrate on? What did they do? How did they find their success? And what their answer was that was somewhat shocking is everyone's smart. Everyone's smart. So you need to
You haven't been in real estate long.
Well, this is law school. So you need to understand that 90% of them are going to get a 90% on the exam. Now you need to figure out how to get above the 90%. And I would do things outside the box. So you may not understand what I'm talking about, but when we have cases, it's Smith versus the United States and it's 24 USC something, I would memorize those things. So most people, when the exam came out, would just write down the words of what happened in the case. I would actually memorize the sightings of the case that would make my paper stand apart from the other 90% smart people. So when the teacher got mine, they went, oh my God, this is so different than the 90%. How do we correlate this to your listings? 90% of the people are going to go to the sellers and say exactly the same thing. You need to figure out what gets you above the 90% so you stand out to a seller when you're fighting for that listing.
I would add to what Mark is saying. When you follow people who are ahead of you, whether you've been doing this for 6 months or 60 years, just because someone has 60 years doesn't mean that they have knowledge that they can transfer to you. And just because someone has 1 year doesn't mean that they don't have knowledge they can transfer to you. Decide who you want to be like, make sure that they actually are doing what they say they are doing, that there's, and that, make sure that they're not. I've met people who've been in this business for a year or two, and they have a podcast and they're putting themselves out there as someone who's been this complete expert, and all they're doing is repeating what they hear other people say, and they don't have answers when you ask deep questions. So be careful who you choose to follow, but always surround yourself with people who are ahead of you in what you want to do, who are more successful or further down the track.
Hey, Jesse, I'm going to take a little bit different tact on this. Yes, find people who are doing things that are better that you aspire to. Absolutely, 100%. Totally get that. Put yourself above everybody else, what Mark is saying. Mm-hmm. Love that. First thing, though, I would do, I think, is I'd take a look at myself, look inward. Who am I? What's my thing, right? I'm an investment guy. I like helping people buy vacation rental properties such that they'll have passive income 30 years from now when they retire because of these properties. That's my thing. I want people to have money when they retire so they can live this big life. That's my thing, right? Figure out what your thing is. What are you good at? What do you like? What is all that stuff? What's your greatness? And then start putting out content or whatever, or go finding people that are good at that same greatness or whatever. And you'll find that people start to get attracted to you. You're going to start working with people who you like to work with, when you want to work with them, how you want to work with them. I would try less to shoehorn yourself into something you're not entirely passionate about. Now, I get this too. If you get good at it, you start to do business, all of a sudden the passion shows up. I get that, right? But I would start with who you are first and build off of that.
Can I
Mark,
chime in?
Or what, Destiny?
I wanted to chime in. I think that we as newer agents think this is going to happen overnight, and it's just not. You've
Good
got
point.
to realize this isn't even going to happen in a month. It's building up that momentum and being consistent with it so that you are convincing people, I'm a listing agent. You know, those buyers will come from the listings that you leverage, but you've got to stay consistent with it. You can't let off the gas, and it's not going to happen overnight.
Violet, how long do you have to go to law school?
3 years.
3 years to go to law school. And then once you graduate, you get a job paying you a gazillion bucks?
No.
Then you go to work, right?
Correct. Then you prove yourself, and then you realize you're making them a gazillion dollars, and then you go start your own law firm.
Right. And then you got to go lead generate and find clients and do all that stuff. Right.
Then you
keep
realize
proving
that
yourself.
a business is a lot more than just having a law degree.
So I got young kids working. When I say I got people on our team, we got an 18-year-old, a 21-year-old, and a 23-year-old, right? They're in their first year.
You can add them all together and
First
still not reach
month.
you.
I know, right? Good to be. It's good to be experienced. But you could take those three in all the months they're doing, and they have a year experience. But it's like going to school. It, like Destiny was saying, it takes some time. You got to learn. You got to pay your dues. You got to be out there active.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of realtors, here, I got my license. I'm hanging it with whatever brokerage. Where's the money?
Let it roll in.
Yeah.
You'll be underpaid your first year. You'll be paid okay your second year. By the third year, you'll start.
If you're working. And things are rolling.
If you're working hard.
Yeah,
You're
that's
working
it.
really hard. Like Destiny said, if you keep your foot on the gas floored for the first couple of years, you cannot let your foot off the gas.
Very hard to make a business work, especially when you're just starting.
Yeah.
It just be in it. But once you've seen this with your business too, like even with everything, once it starts to roll in the engine that you built starts to do it rather than you pushing it, then the rewards start to show up.
Yeah, I think the cycle, especially in this business, you have to understand their cycles. So timing does have a lot to do with it. You could have all the energy, you could have all the ideas. If you come in at the wrong time, you are building towards the future when the cycle runs its course and then the floodgates open. But if you're new, you don't understand that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's important to have mentors, to have coaches, to have people that you can talk to. And sometimes the answer is you're doing everything right. It's just a bad time.
Your timing's off.
But you have to continue to push through the bad times, because what I like about, the older I get, I like bad times because that weeds out some of my competition who I know are just here because it's good times. And I know eventually the cycle will kick around. And if you're here long enough, you can tell the stories to the new agents. I understand you're using them and you've got a friend over there, but they've been here for 2 years. Oh, guess what? We've had a good market for 2 years. Are they going to be here in 5 to 7 years when the market goes the other direction? And new people may go, whatever. I don't even know what you're talking about. But that's just, we'll just call it the circle of life in the real estate business.
There you go. Simpson, give us last thoughts.
Lean in, work hard, don't stop, and have the conversations to the people that you want to attract.
Love it. Destiny, you got anything?
I would just say put your face out there as much as you can so that people recognize you and are ready to work with you when they're ready.
Love it. Julie?
So I would say, you have to have something to pull you forward and motivate you. And there's a couple of statistics. One of them is the silver tsunami, which is all the baby boomers are going to be turning 65 in the next couple of years. The end of the baby boom generation is 1964. And they were the first generation that saw real estate as an investment beyond being a shelter. They're going to be transferring 70 billion with a B in wealth in the next couple of years. So there are going to be transactions no matter what kind of cycle we're in. So that motivates me to know it's going to get better.
Love it. You got a last word?
No.
I'll take the last word. To win the day, show up. Show up, stay in the game, talk to as many people as you can about what makes you great. You'll be fine. Let's go to work, people. See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.